Energy. Get cozy with a new fireplace and save up to $500 with rebates on Cozy Heat gas inserts. Or receive a free on-off remote with purchase of select gas log sets. The best deal of all, Rinnai tankless water heaters start at $295 after rebates. Visit G&B Energy in Statesville or gbenergy.com. Restrictions apply. See store for details.
The following is a paid program and does not necessarily reflect the views of WSIC.
It's 11:06 on WSIC News. You're listening to We're Just Saying with Senator Vicki Sawyer and David. Logic part of the show, 844 Studio 4. We are streaming live on the WSIC News app and all the various social media platforms. Good morning, Senator Sawyer.
Hello, David.
How are
in
you?
one of the last Fridays before election.
That's right. Only 2 more Fridays, and then it's election day, right?
Oh, my gosh. And what a week we've had. You were busy.
I was very busy, yeah.
Yeah?
I was out in Vail, Colorado, doing some business stuff. Saw a little bit of snow while I
Yeah.
was out there, which was nice.
Interesting.
The ski resorts were making the snow. Vail's a
Oh.
big ski. I do not ski anymore.
You do not?
I did in high school and college, but I don't do
Mm.
it anymore because, I'm old and I have this fear of like injury. So I
Yeah.
typically avoid anything that might cause
Yeah.
an injury if I can. But no, it was good. The altitude messed with me pretty good. But
Yeah.
because like Vail's like another like 3,000 feet above where Denver is.
Yeah.
So, and Denver's the mile high city. So, you do the math, but overall good. And then, but I was very excited. So for our listeners, Senator Sawyer was on the case on
Oh.
Sunday. You were I got a text from you and I will say this for every political candidate
Right.
who has ever had signs and stuff like that, you should be a hero to them for what happened on Sunday. I mean, I tell you, so you were driving home from church when?
We were driving home from church and we were on Brawley School Road. And I look up and I see this white Chevy pickup truck and he's pulled in the median. I'm like, oh, that's probably somebody putting out some signs. Not uncommon for this time of year. And then I look and I'm like, that's my sign in his hand. And that's Commissioner Help's sign in his hand. And I looked and said, Brett, follow that guy. He's stealing my signs. Now, of all the years that I have been putting out signs and campaigning for myself and other people, we've always known that there's been what do we call it? Iredell County, political winds.
Yes.
There's tornadoes that somehow come through and catch certain people's signs, but put up others at the same
Yes,
time.
exactly.
And usually those are in the dark of night, I would assume, if someone was to do that, or, you can just chalk it up to just good old Iredell County politics. Never before have I witnessed. So then we get behind what we thought was the guy, but it wasn't the guy, which I need to apologize. I find that guy and apologize because we were like, where's my signs? And he was like, I just went to I just got my truck cleaned, lady. And I was like, oh my gosh. So then we looked up and I look across the street and sure enough, the same guy is taking the signs across the street. So I'm fumbling and I get my camera out and I'm taking pictures of them. And then my husband chases him down. We find him in the car. So here we are. We've got my car and this truck. And I'm looking at him and taking pictures. And I'm like, man, you are committing a crime here. You're taking our signs. Now, I get it. You all know, long listeners of the show, I am not a fan of a sign in the right of way. I get it. But it's what we do. But when you steal my signs,
that is your property.
I have not had a car chase in a good long time.
Please tell me you have a dash cam and filmed all this.
Oh my gosh, I wish we did.
It'd be like Cops Iredell County or Vigilante Justice in Iredell County.
Well, I was a little disappointed because, of course, we were, abiding by the laws and the rules of the road. So he lost us in a neighborhood, right? Because I was going to chase him down. I wanted my signs back. That is absolutely. And I'm also curious, who is he?
Yeah.
I always want to know, who's the guy stealing.
And why is he only stealing yours and
Commissioner Halp's
signs?
Yeah, it was very interesting. So I'm on the phone with Commissioner Halp. He actually calls into the non-emergency number. And I guess the all call goes out to Mooresville PD. Just be on the lookout for this vehicle with this license plate number, Florida out-of-state license plate number, which was even weirder. Why would someone who lives out of state be stealing local political signs?
Things that make you go,
Right. So then the guy was not his day. Apparently there was Mooresville PD, actually, as the call was going over, saw him stealing more of my signs after we had
Oh.
confronted him, and more Gene Help signs after we had confronted him. And they literally pull up and see the guy lifting the signs out of the road in front of the PD, and they got him.
Nice.
It was so exhilarating because if you've ever been a candidate and you've had your signs stolen, you always want to know who it is.
Yes.
And we know who it is.
Yes.
So thankfully, Mooresville PD let me go up and pick up my signs while he was out of his car, sitting on the back deck of his truck, and I was able to pick up the signs right then and there, right in front of him.
Nice.
It was
Play
great.
stupid games, win stupid prizes.
It was great. And so apparently the only thing he said is they were litter.
But not everybody else's signs.
Not everybody
Just
else's,
yours.
just mine
Just
and
yours
Commissioner
and
House.
Gene's were litter.
And Commissioner House signs. Now, guys, if you are passionate about a candidate and you see their opponent in there, I would advise you not to steal signs. It is not good to have a larceny on your record. And there's folks like us who spend about $7 to $8 for one of those silly signs. We want those back, and we will prosecute. So
As you should.
and we did, and we will continue to.
Well, and
And
some campaigns have got. I'm like I've been involved with campaigns that have set up that have had signs for at a specific area that have gone missing, who have gone out and set up like deer cameras. To put on their signs in that particular area. There are also people who put those little things you can do in your luggage.
Yes,
now,
the
like
air
the
tags.
air tags. There are people who air tag their signs now because it is much easier to track things now.
Yes.
So if you are passionate for one candidate and can't stand another one, it is not worth it to commit a crime. It is a crime. Okay? And it does you no good.
Yeah.
It really, really doesn't do you any good.
So I miss Yadkin County in so many ways when I represented. I'm happy the district I have now, but in Yadkin County, they had their own way of fixing the signs.
Really?
Okay. So they would take barbed wire and put it around their political signs. So, because apparently, there's a lot of large trucks,
Oh, yeah.
it's in the country. And when the truck would run over the sign, the barbed wire
Oh, wow.
would come out and just
I love that.
wrap the tire and just kill them.
I love everything about that.
I
I
know.
really do.
They also would put like just heavy mechanics grease and a little bit of dung.
Oh my gosh.
So when you go to pull up the sign, you have
You gotta love
cow
Yadkin
poo
County.
and mechanics grease on your hand.
Oh my gosh, that is epic right there. But you know what? Good for them.
Good for them.
Good for
I
them.
don't
If
be
you're gonna
still-
do that kind of stuff,
Yeah,
you deserve it.
yeah.
You deserve it.
Now, I know someone who is going to be on the show here in a few minutes, and he would not condone any of those behaviors.
Naturally.
His name is Tom Murry, and he bees on your ballot.
He
bees on your ballot. Yeah.
Well done. Grammar coming strong today.
We're going to hear from Tom Murry after the break, and he is asking for you to vote for him for appeals court. We had Valerie Zachary on here, Judge Zachary, and no, David, I confirmed he cannot get you out of a ticket.
He can't?
No.
Okay, so I really don't have anything to talk to him about.
Well, you're going to have to figure out something because he's calling into the show. And then at the end of the show, we're going to have North Carolina Chairman Jason Simmons. I'm incredibly excited about him. I want to see what he is hearing on the streets about what's happening across America and the chances for Trump.
Absolutely. You're listening to We're Just Saying on WSIC News. We'll be right back.
We'll return with more of NC Senator Vicky Sawyer, and We're Just Saying after this short break on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
We'll talk about a nice way to end the work week. Plenty of sunshine. Temperatures back in the upper 70s this afternoon. We'll cool it off tonight into the low 50s with a partly cloudy sky. Into our weekend, warmer. Low 80s are back for our Saturday with a few extra clouds and a sprinkler shower possible. Most of us will stay dry, but we bring about a big cool down to end the weekend. From the 80s Saturday into the 60s for highs on Sunday. That's your forecast from WSIC Weather Center. Meteorologist Chase Myers.
The WSIC app is available now wherever you get your apps, featuring local deals from great local businesses like Greystone Lodge in Boone,
cakes and cookies, toys and gifts.
The Southern Christmas Show, November 14th through 24th at the Park Expo and Conference Center. Save on tickets at southernChristmasShow.com, courtesy of Kraft Body Scan.
The Southern Christmas Show.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Brookdale Village in Huntersville presents the Live Under the Oaks season finale on Friday. This free outdoor concert series comes to a close with a Kids in America performance at 6 p.m. powered by Waves Entertainment. Grab your lawn chairs and your friends for the Live Under the Oaks season finale Friday night at Brookdale Village. Sunday is the annual Boo Fest at Ghostface Brewing in Mooresville. Put on your Halloween costume and enjoy the party with a live concert by Alice Cooper Tribute Band. Love it to death. Ghostface will be serving up cold brews. Their delicious kitchen will be open with a full menu, and Beer Lab will have mixed drinks. Spend Sunday at Ghostface Brewing in Mooresville for the Boo Fest Halloween party. The Dirt Track at Charlotte Motor Speedway presents the World of Outlaws World Finals on the 6th of November through the 9th. Catch Dirt Racing's top 3 series for 4 days of action to decide their championships, featuring the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series, the World of Outlaws Late Model Series, and the Super Dirt Car Big Block Modifieds. Single day and 4-day ticket packages and camping information are all available at charlottemotorspeedway.com. Often imitated, never duplicated. The World of Outlaws World Finals invade the Charlotte Motor Speedway Dirt Track in November. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
The Renaissance Festival is back, Saturdays and Sundays, now through November 24th. Eat, drink, be merry at the Renaissance Festival. Tickets available online only at renfestinfo.com. Don't miss it!
Now more We're Just Saying with North Carolina Senator Vicky Sawyer on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Welcome back to We're Just Saying on WSIC News Radio with Senator Vicky Sawyer and David. Logic part of the show, 844 Studio 4. We are still streaming live on the WSIC News app and other social media platforms. But we do have a guest right now. So if you're going to call, wait till the next segment. But we do have a guest on.
We do. And it was fun. We spent some time in Raleigh this week because we had to do Hurricane Helene disaster relief. And we can talk about that a little later in the show. But in the opportunity, I had to go to a meeting, and I got to sit beside Tom Murry. Now, Tom Murry has not been on the show, and then he called later and he said, "Hey, let's do the show." And I said, "I can't believe I forgot to ask you because it's such a great candidate for the Court of Appeals." And Tom now will be on your ballot as a Republican for the Court of Appeals, and he is a husband and a father, an Army veteran. He serves as a judge advocate for the North Carolina National Guard, and he was a state legislator. And he got that out of his system but while he was there, he was named one of the most effective legislators in Raleigh, and he did champion the voter ID law and regulatory reform at his time. So I want to welcome Tom Murry to the show. Tom, thank you for calling in.
I'm glad to be with you on this show, Vicki and David, and I look forward to the conversation. And I was going to say, the best kind of legislator is a former legislator.
That's so right. That's so funny. Well, you live in Wake, but you've served in the National Army Guard, and so you've been all across North Carolina, both as a legislator and now as an appeals court judge. So what made you decide that you wanted to run to be one of our next judges for North Carolina?
Well, I've had some interesting experiences in multiple branches of government, but most recently with the judicial branch, serving as a state prosecutor in Vance, Warren, Franklin, Granville, and Person counties. So I've held court in all 5 of those counties and done jury trials in 2 of them. And then before that, working for the Chief Justice, when Mark Martin was our Chief Justice, I served as his Chief Legal Counsel, Chief of Staff on the administrative side, kind of the point person to interface between the legislative branch and the executive branch. So given those 2 experiences, I've really appreciated the role that judges play as, I believe, our last line of defense to defend the Constitution and make sure that we are protecting the rights that we have enshrined in our Constitution. That's a big part of the motivation
Yeah.
of why I'm running for the Court of Appeals.
Well, apparently the Charlotte Observer also recognized that in you. I was reading through that. I mean, there was a few of us who actually got the nod from their editorial board, and I was thankful to see that they kind of took a bipartisan approach to their endorsements, and you got a glowing review that they endorsed you. I mean, that's quite an honor, especially in this area.
Yes, and I remember, when I sat down and talked to them, I said, you might want to just talk to folks that I had served with in the legislature, so that you just don't make a decision uninformed. And I was humbled. I had former Democrat legislators who I had worked with text me afterwards, "Hey, the Charlotte Observer News and Observer called me. This is what I told them," and ultimately that resulted in the endorsement. And the way I look at that, and you have this experience too, working in the Senate now, is there's plenty of issues where there's 50-0 votes,
right? And
in the Senate, or 120-0, and so the more you can work on issues to build that consensus. I'm extremely encouraged to see the legislature unanimously supporting Western North Carolina. The more we do that, the better off our state's going to be, especially when it comes to the judicial branch, which is the least partisan of all the branches of government, where we're making decisions that impact public safety every day. Mm-hmm. That is not a partisan pursuit. And so to have those positive comments from folks on both sides of the aisle, I think helped me get that endorsement from the editorial boards of the Charlotte Observer, News Observer. But it's consistent with how I've tried to carry myself, whether I'm in elected office, working in the courthouse, or serving in uniform in the Army National Guard.
Yeah.
So, Tom, let me ask you something. Obviously, as a former state legislator, you've sort of run, a campaign, based off, political issues, legislative issues, and things like that. Sort of, how are you running a judicial race differently from, because it's very, very different, scopes of the jobs that you're running for. How are you doing it differently from in a judicial campaign versus how you did it in a state legislature campaign?
Great question. I think the biggest way that you can stay on the right side of judicial standards, because we do have judicial standards even for candidates running for judicial office. The best way to stay on the right side of that is to focus on your philosophy, not on any particular issues. I can tell you I'm extremely concerned at what I've seen in the Supreme Court race in North Carolina, where I believe at least one candidate has gone way too far from a judicial standards perspective, and forecasted a policy position with cases that are pending either in state or federal court, and it's extremely concerning to me. I've tried to stay away from that and focused on the fact that I believe that the original words of the Constitution mean what they say, that statutory interpretations focuses on the intent of the legislature at the time that it was passed, not retrospective after the fact, putting your own spin on any policy position as a judicial official. And I think that's a protection, not just for the people of the state of North Carolina, but it protects the law and order and the independence of the judiciary.
Right.
When judges issue rulings based on their political views, it undermines the public's trust.
Absolutely. And you may not be able to comment on it, but I can, because Jefferson Griffith was a candidate, or is a candidate for Supreme Court, has a very contentious race against Allison Riggs. And they have, and I have seen it because of some mailers that come to my house where they are opining about abortion and Allison Riggs, and she has been open about talking about how she would, rule on something which is completely outside of the standards for judicial. And then also Jefferson, this is about you, Tom, but also Jefferson actually was called to serve in the National Guard right before his campaign. So he's actually not able to campaign, and he's serving his state and working in the National Guard right now. So it's kind of like up to all of us surrogates to help him out and get us over the finish line.
Yeah, it's one thing for a candidate to say how they feel on a particular issue, And my concern is that in that particular campaign, we've seen the Democrats try to forecast how the other candidate is going to go and is going to vote on a particular issue. And that's I think that's a bridge too far.
Yeah,
Great.
I completely agree.
So, Tom, you said earlier, the best elected official is the former one, the retired one. But now you've gotten out of the state legislature. Now you're looking to get back in. So, what was it that sort of motivated you to look at a judicial race and seek and try to get in and be a judge?
Well, I can tell you, I had a lot of conversations with people I trust that are currently wearing a black robe. Ask them if this would be something based on my skill set and background experience, whether it would be a position that I would be good at, and to a person, people that have won statewide elections said this is like, we need you with your jury trial experience, with your legislative experience, with your military experience. You're going to bring all those things. Plus, one of the judges I talked to, who's serving statewide right now, said, you're a pharmacist too.
Right.
And we deal with medical malpractice litigation, workers' compensation, insurance defense issues, and that's a foreign language to us as lawyers. But you're going to bring that skill set to the Court of Appeals, and it will be a tremendous value add. And that was something that I didn't even recognize. I didn't even think of. But I went to pharmacy school before I went to law school. Been a pharmacist for 23 years. And still practice a little bit in community pharmacies across the state. And so I think that's a tremendous value add for one of the hardest working courts in the state of North Carolina at the Court of Appeals.
I'm so glad you brought that up because that is so true that you do have a great baseline in all kinds of like small business, but also in the medical field and with the judicial and with National Guard. I mean, you really do have, you're a stellar candidate on paper and off because you've been working really hard across the state. What are your plans for these next? Let's see, how many more days, hours do we have until actually election day? Are you still continuing to campaign across the state?
Yeah, the plan this weekend, I was texting some folks who are running for the General Assembly, like what early voting locations are popping in Cabarrus and Mecklenburg and Rowan, and so I'm probably after this conversation, I'm gonna jump in the car, go to a couple early voting locations, probably spend the night in the Charlotte metro area, and then hit a couple early voting sites. Just putting eyes on target, putting lead on target, face to face, hand to hand. My name's Tom Murry. I'm running for the Court of Appeals. I'm asking for your vote. Charlotte Observer endorsed me.
Well, depending on the area, Tom, you might want to gauge that depending on the area you're in.
I understand. I don't want to catch any heat rounds in Rowan County by saying that. But I at the end of the day, I think folks, when they have a chance to meet a candidate face to face, the likelihood of them voting for that candidate goes way through the roof. Now, we've had over 2 million votes already cast. I think we're going to hit 5.5, getting probably close to 6 million votes cast. And so I don't think I'm going to touch everybody this weekend. I just put it to you that way.
Yeah. Well, Tom, with the last 30 seconds that we have here, tell folks how they can learn more about you, your website, and help if they can financially, and just how they can vote for you.
Absolutely. My website's real simple, jointom.com. We're up on all the social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn. We have a presence on all those places, but by far, I think you'll see we've got a YouTube channel as well where you can see some of the advertising that we put out. And what I would ask is that you go to my website, jointom.com. There's an image of all the 4 statewide judicial candidates. Download that image and text it to 10 of your friends and ask them to finish the ballot so we continue the pattern of electing good conservative judges across the state of North Carolina.
Thank you, Tom. We'll be right back.
Stay with us. We'll have more of We're Just Saying with NC Senator Vicky Sawyer after this short break on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
We'll talk about a nice way to end the work week. Plenty of sunshine. Temperatures back in the upper 70s this afternoon. We'll cool it off tonight into the low 50s with a partly cloudy sky. Into our weekend, warmer. Low 80s are back for our Saturday with a few extra clouds and a sprinkler shower possible. Most of us will stay dry, but we bring about a big cool down to end the weekend. From 80s Saturday, into the 60s for highs on Sunday. That's your forecast from WSIC Weather Center. And meteorologist Chase Myers.
Crosswhite Law in Statesville cares. Here to serve you and your family's needs in elder law, estate planning, and estate administration. Call Crosswhite Law today, 704-873-7233.
Hi, this is Bob McIntosh with the McIntosh Law Firm in Davidson. Since 1997, we have been committed to providing our clients with competent, caring, and experienced legal services. Learn more at McIntoshLawFirm.com.
Temperatures are heating up, but the prices are cooling down at Randy Marion Ford Lincoln here in Statesville. How about this? Over $8,000 off F-150s. That's the XLT trim, that's the Lariat trim, that's the Platinum trim, that's the Limited trim. That is the Crew Cab, that is the Super Cab. You name it, Randy Marion Ford. We got it right here in Statesville at a big discount on F-150s. Again, over $8,000 off. Come see us today, I-77, exit 49B.
Looking for a large private room for your next work function? Or maybe you need a place to bring the whole family for a delicious meal? Pomodoros of Mooresville has the perfect space for your crowd. Book your next event at Pomodoros.com.
For over 57 years, Nelson Royals has been serving the Lake Norman, Mooresville, Statesville, and surrounding counties. Nelson Royals has work in Western clothing and over 4,000 boots and shoes in stock. Brands like Ariat, Rocky, Justin, Durango, Tony Lama, Red Wing, Thorogood, Skechers, Hey Dude, and many more. Check them out at NelsonRoyals.com.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. We haven't felt this good in half a year, at least according to the latest look at U.S. consumer sentiment. The twice-monthly tracker from the University of Michigan shows an unexpected uptick in the collective consumer mood. Survey takers say households are growing more upbeat about buying conditions, at least partly because of cheaper financing costs. This year's many problems facing Boeing, in-flight safety incidents, grounded planes, delayed construction, and the labor standoff are showing up in the latest reading of U.S. big-ticket purchases. The Commerce Department's measure of U.S. durable goods orders for September shows a nearly 1% slide from August, but it's entirely because bookings for commercial aircraft have dropped. Orders for everything but planes increased, led by demand for new business equipment. On Wall Street, we're heading higher. More than twice as many stocks up as down, and the Dow is rising 1/3%. S&P 500 gaining nearly 1%, NASDAQ up 1.3%. Andrew O'Day, Bloomberg Radio.
Call now to speak with NC Senator Vicky Sawyer at 844-STUDIO-4. It's We're Just Saying on 105.9, 100.7 WSIC.
Welcome back to We're Just Saying on WSIC News Radio with Senator Vicky Sawyer and David. Live to be part of the show, 844-STUDIO-4. We are still streaming live on the WSIC News app and all points in between on social media. So great discussion with Tom. I think he's going to be a fantastic judge.
I agree. I think he's got the right acumen for that position, and hope you all vote for him. And as well, like you mentioned, all the other Republican choices for your Supreme Court, Jefferson Griffin and the others, that I should have off the top of my head, like Valerie Zachary and those folks. But if the numbers hold true in North Carolina, which we can pontificate on this, right now, Republican by number are outvoting Democrats at the polls.
In early voting.
Early voting. So just this, and if you guys ever want to look at something, John Locke Foundation has a great resource, and you can look at it on carolinaelections.com, and it will give you the daily early voting total. It won't give you a lot of information as far as like who is voting for what. Obviously no one knows that, but it shows that as of yesterday that Republicans had 789,000 votes, Democratic were 772,000, and unaffiliated was 723,000. So it is a lot of folks voting early, and it seems like a trend that's happening across the nation.
It is. I've seen a number of segments on some news shows and things like that about early voting numbers being up. Republicans outpacing Democrats is very unusual, right?
Wait, this is first time ever.
Yeah, it's actually first time ever.
In North Carolina.
Yeah, and actually if you look at in comparison to 2020, Democrats are down. Republicans are up. And obviously, the independents are right there, at it and everything like that. So if you look at the numbers and then look at the polling, right, which, recent polling has gotten, you can look at the Real Clear Politics average, very, very tight on there, but more recent polls and things like that have shown Trump gaining, in North Carolina, leading in North Carolina, and some new polling that's out. Also, tied her up in Wisconsin, tied her up in Michigan, tied her up in Pennsylvania. The Democrats like to. I've seen a couple of articles talking about the Democrat blue wall, which used to be, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, in some cases, sometimes Ohio. But in all of those, Trump's either up or it's tied or maybe only down 1 point. So that's, even down 1 point in some of those states and some of the polls, that's bad news for Democrats.
Absolutely, because usually Republicans do not poll well, right? We've seen that before. And remember going into 2016, I mean, it was all Trump, all Hillary. And then Trump comes out and wins those elections. And so, or that election, and gosh, 2020, I think it was neck and neck. Or
It was neck and neck, but Biden actually,
he was polling
he was
up.
polling up
Yeah.
decently nationally
Yeah.
during that time frame. And then obviously in the battleground states, he was leading. So, but was polling much better, obviously, than Kamala Harris is right now. Or is it Kamala? Because like the big thing now is that you must pronounce names correctly, right? I've seen that on a couple of shows. You continue to mispronounce her name. Okay, sorry. What do you want me to do here? It's like some deep ingrained, misogynistic or racist tendency because you don't pronounce her name right. It's like, look, people have called me Cobble for years. Okay, I don't get offended by it. Grammar does because basic grammar is 1B versus 2.
Yeah.
But I digress. I don't think it's like some deep seated animosity towards me as to why they mispronounce my name. But some people in the media want to make it about they mispronouncing her name as some deep seated that underlying bias, that unconscious racial bias that all of us have. Apparently.
I remember I'm Vicky with an I, not
you
an
are
I-E.
Vicky with an I, not an IE.
And so I will jokingly understand a little bit about that, but that's just so nitpicky, because guess what? I feel like they think they're losing in her erratic behavior. And you were talking about her CNN performance.
Oh yeah, she took a whole day off from the campaign trail to do a CNN town hall this week, and it wasn't good. And the reason I know, I'm never going to think it's good. I can be reasonably objective.
Yeah.
I can look at a candidate and say, even if I don't agree with what they've been saying, say they did a good job articulating their position, bringing people around to their way of thinking, maybe potentially closing the deal in. With voters who may be still suspect of them. At no point in time has anyone said that about her. And because she kicked up her interviews considerably over the last little bit. The only reason she would have done that is if she saw bad polling.
Right.
Because to be fair, her campaign, her Democrat leadership, and even she knows she's not good unscripted. She's simply not. She's barely decent scripted. She is not good unscripted.
Right.
And you saw it again at the CNN, which you think she would start to, she's being asked the same questions and she still fumbles them every single time, right? Asking her about the border. Oh, we need to secure the border. Why didn't you do it the last 3 years? Well, we did some stuff, but we have to do more, right? We did good things, but now we have to do more good things. What good things did you do? Because the economy sucks, immigration is out of control, and people can barely afford groceries. So tell me what good things did you do? Oh, well, we did some good things. I grew up in a middle class home. That's like always go back. I grew up in a middle class home. It's great, good for you. I did too. Doesn't qualify me to be president at all. But it was very cringeworthy, and the reason I knew that it didn't work or wasn't good was because even the pundits after the fact were just like, I don't really, except unless you go over to MSNBC, which they thought she just was legendary in all things that she's done. They never have a single critical thing to say about her over there. But on CNN, the talking heads after, they were all like, I don't think she really did what she needed to do on this, and she still didn't answer these questions. And whereas you go and you watch Trump, you watch JD Vance, they're very much they're answering the questions they're asked, they're putting out ideas, they're putting forward a message, whereas she's just kind of word salad Kamala, and it's just not good. It's just really not. And I think that you can, I think we talked about this last week, the way people act on the campaign trail, I think gives you a sense of how they think they're doing. And Trump, doing the McDonald's thing, which we talked about last, which I thought was fantastic. Him working at McDonald's, and then he's having a good time on the campaign trail. J.D. Vance is having a good time on the campaign trail. Kamala, not so much.
Yeah.
Tim Walz, not so much, and the Democrats out there talking about her, not so much. So I really feel like there is a deep sense inside that they feel like she's losing this race right now.
Well, if you are haven't voted yet, which I know you haven't.
I have not. I voted election day.
I know. I voted today. And this is why I'm of a certain age, and I would hate to not wake up, not feel good on election day,
I was gonna say,
and
not
make.
wake up.
I'm
You're
just
not of
messing.
that age. You're not of
It
that
feels
age.
like it during election time. But make a plan. Know when you're going to go vote. Make sure your family and your family members are taken care of. Those of you who have, like me, a child at school, and she says, "Mom, I need my ballot." We made sure to get her absentee ballot sent to her. But make a plan. Know when you're going to go vote. I voted this morning. It took me about 10 minutes. There was a line, but not like it had been. And interesting enough, my voting precinct is Lake Norman Fire Department, but it is one of the top 4 turnout precincts in all of the state.
Really?
Yeah. So on that CarolinaElections.com, it will show you breakdown by precinct. And the top, and we in the My Davidson 1B precinct by numbers has turned out the fourth busiest. And actually another one in Iredell County, shout out to Cottle Creek 3. That precinct, that has got turned out, and it's in the 9th heaviest voting. So Iredell County looks to be like we are out there voting, and I know North Mecca is doing the same, but make a plan to go vote either tomorrow or next week, and just go ahead and get it over with if you can.
If you can, yes, absolutely. And Cottle Creek 3 is always a high turnout district inside of Mooresville. The people who live there very
they're in tune to the
vote-minded.
community.
They're in tune to the community. Even in municipal races, in Mooresville, Cottle Creek 3 is one that is a big one for turnout and kind of a bellwether for the east side of Mooresville.
Yeah, and there's a couple of down ballot races. And when you say down ballot, that means not president, that are very concerning. And we are neck and neck, I think, what I heard from the polling. One is Attorney General, and we're going to talk to Jason Simmons about that race when he comes onto the show at 11:45, and how important that race is for us to win. And that's a Dan Bishop versus Jeff Jackson, and that there's a lot of emphasis being put on that. And we really hope that we can pull that out. There hasn't been an Attorney General that was Republican elected since Reconstruction.
Wow.
There was one appointed, which actually I want to read a book. There was one appointed that was a Republican back in the 70s. And I'm like, what's his deal? Like, how did he get appointed with a democratically controlled state? That would be interesting deep dive to know who this guy was. But other than that, there's not been a Republican. And we have seen, especially during some of the COVID lockdowns, how important having an attorney general that will actually defend the laws that are on the books in some of the most heinous crimes ever. When we had one that was silent and Josh Stein and just wouldn't enforce the law, we need someone like Dan Bishop at the top to be able to make things done.
That is really a critical, Council of State race for us because, really, I mean, like you said, and like you mentioned, what we saw during COVID, if you have got, and we have a Republican legislature and it's great,
Right.
but if we do not have an attorney general who is willing to enforce the laws that the legislature has passed, that is problematic.
Yeah.
And I think we have seen it at the federal level with Merrick Garland, who has refused to enforce immigration law. He has refused to enforce a number of different laws on the books and let things slide. And at the state level, the same during COVID with Josh Stein. It is critical to have an attorney general who will actually enforce the law.
Well, and show up to work. I mean,
show up to work.
I served with Senator Jeff Jackson, now Congressman Jeff Jackson, when he was in the Senate. And quite frankly, I never or hardly ever saw him at any committee meetings. Did not hear him working on any legislation as it was moving through.
Well, he had to post on TikTok.
What he did sit outside the chamber and practice. He literally
his Twitters and his TikToks.
He would sit outside the chamber and record himself before he was going to make the speech just to practice what he would look like on camera. So if you want that kind of politician, then support Jeff Jackson. But if you want someone who's going to brass knuckles get in there and make sure that the law is carried forward and enforce it, we need Dan Bishop.
Oh, 100%. And Dan Bishop is a great individual, will do a fantastic job, and would be someone who would actually enforce the law.
Yeah.
You're listening to We're Just Saying on WSIC News. We'll be right back.
We'll return with more of NC Senator Vicky Sawyer, and We're Just Saying after this short break on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
We'll talk about a nice way to end the work week. Plenty of sunshine. Temperatures back in the upper 70s this afternoon. We'll cool it off tonight into the low 50s with a partly cloudy sky. Into our weekend, warmer. Low 80s are back for our Saturday with a few extra clouds and a sprinkler shower possible. Most of us will stay dry, but we bring about a big cool down to end the weekend. From the 80s Saturday into the 60s for highs on Sunday. That's your forecast from WSIC Weather Center. Meteorologist Chase Myers.
Cakes and cookies, toys and gifts.
The Southern Christmas Show, November 14th through 24th at the Park Expo and Conference Center. Save on tickets at southernChristmasShow.com, courtesy of Kraft Body Scan.
The Southern Christmas Show.
Here is your WSIC community calendar. Birkdale Village in Huntersville presents the Live Under the Oaks season finale on Friday. This free outdoor concert series comes to a close with a Kids in America performance at 6 p.m. powered by Waves Entertainment. Grab your lawn chairs and your friends for the Live Under the Oaks season finale Friday night at Birkdale Village. Sunday is the annual Boo Fest at Ghostface Brewing in Mooresville. Put on your Halloween costume and enjoy the party with a live concert by Alice Cooper tribute band Love It to Death. Ghostface will be serving up cold brews, their delicious kitchen will be open with a full menu, and Beer Lab will have mixed drinks. Spend Sunday at Ghostface Brewing in Mooresville for the Boo Fest Halloween party. The Dirt Track at Charlotte Motor Speedway presents the World of Outlaws World Finals on the 6th of November through the 9th. Catch Dirt Racing's top 3 series for 4 days of action to decide their championships, featuring the World of Outlaws Sprint Car Series, the World of Outlaws Late Model Series, and the Super Dirt Car Big Block Modifieds. Single day and 4-day ticket packages and camping information are all available at charlottemotorspeedway.com. Often imitated, never duplicated. The World of Outlaws World Finals invade the Charlotte Motor Speedway Dirt Track in November. To keep up with all the events happening around the community and much more, including amazing local deals, download the WSIC News app today.
The Renaissance Festival is back Saturdays and Sundays, now through November 24th. Eat, drink, be merry at the Renaissance Festival. Tickets available online only at renfestinfo.com. Don't miss it!
Now back to We're Just Saying with North Carolina Senator Vicky Sawyer on 105.9 100.7 WSIC.
Welcome back to We're Just Saying on WSIC News Radio with Senator Vicky Sawyer and David. We are still streaming live on the WSIC News app and social media, but we are thrilled to have the head of the North Carolina Republican Party, Jason Simmons, with us. Jason, how are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you for having me today.
Well, thank you for reaching out, and I'm so excited to have you on the show because there's several things I want to pick your brain about. One is, as the party chair, you ready for elections to be over? No, I'm just kidding. One is like, what are you seeing across the state? And you have to be just over the moon excited about the overperformance by Republicans during early voting.
Absolutely thrilled. I mean, what we continue to see is just a historic trend where after 8 days of early voting, Republicans have beat Democrats 5 of those 8 days. That's unprecedented. We are now overtaking them just on a raw number of Republicans outvoting Democrats. It's statewide, and so you continue to be encouraged by what we're seeing. But obviously, you can't rest on your past performance. We still have, 7, 8 more days of early voting plus election day. So encourage everybody to continue to make a plan and get out and vote.
I agree. And, it seems like maybe this is just me anecdotally. I have such a good feeling about Trump, and it seems like that is carrying through across the state. Is that something that you're seeing as well? I mean, it seems like the polling is tight, but I just see signs and hearing from folks. And it seems like Trump is really going to carry North Carolina.
Absolutely. Having the opportunity to travel across the state from one end to the other, you continue to see enthusiasm for President Trump just all over. And you're not seeing that on the Democrat side with Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
And so as you're traveling around the state, as you're going to rallies, as you're going to events, as I am right now, getting ready to welcome Senator Vance back to the state for 2 events here in North Carolina. we are seeing crowds that are record size and enthusiastic, but more importantly, crowds that have already voted and making sure that they get their friends and family to do the same.
That's fantastic. And another really important race on the ballot for us, and we talked about it right before you came on, is Attorney General and Dan Bishop's race, and how important it is for us as a legislature to have someone in the Attorney General's office that will support the laws that are actually on the book. And I know that you've been working hard with Dan and hoping to get him across that finish line.
Oh, absolutely. And not just a partner with our General Assembly, but also with all of our law enforcement across the state. As you continue to meet with law enforcement and sheriffs from across the state, it is astounding to me that they have never heard from the top law enforcement officer in our state for years, and whether that dates back to Cooper or now Stein. And so if you have your top law enforcement officer in the state who's responsible for working with law enforcement, working with our district attorneys across the state, and they've never had a conversation, they've never met your attorney general, that's astounding to me. And it's also a reflection of what we're seeing in the crime rate across our state, where you're seeing crime up in every one of our major metropolitan areas. And so we look forward to Dan Bishop taking over as Attorney General, working with law enforcement, working with sheriffs, and making sure you can work to enforce the laws that are on the book and make sure our cities, our streets are safe.
Yeah, I completely agree. And then knowing Dan personally and serving with him for a short time, I mean, he has an intimate knowledge of the law all the way from the municipal or city, county level up to federal, where he's served in Congress. And I think he just has that professional acumen and hard work and drive that I do not see in his opponent that we desperately need in that Attorney General's office, because he is committed and he is committed to do really good things if he should win that election.
I completely agree with you. You having somebody in Dan Bishop who's a complete professional, somebody that's been a practitioner of the law, as opposed to somebody who's been more focused on building his brand and TikTok followers.
Agreed. I witnessed it personally. So, and then as we move down through some of the other races, I do want to highlight something that has a bit of confusion. And I've heard you explain this before, and I think you did a fabulous job. At the very end of your ballot, it's going to ask you for a constitutional amendment. And are you for it or against it, as we say in these parts? And I'm for it because I voted for it the first time. But tell me and how important that amendment is, and how are you explaining it to folks? Because it is worded very confusing.
No, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to it. From the Republican Party, we are continuing to encourage people to vote for it. And make sure that you understand that what the constitutional amendment is asking is whether or not you want U.S. citizens to be able to vote only in North Carolina. And so as we look at the laws on the book, this would allow North Carolina to have a constitutional amendment that clearly says the only individuals that are allowed to vote in our elections are U.S. citizens. So we would encourage everybody to vote for that constitutional amendment. You'll find it at the end of your ballot. So make sure you vote top of the ticket all the way down, and everybody else in between.
Very good. And then if you do find yourself voting and you see something that is irregular or something you feel like is out of the norm, you guys at the Republican headquarters have set up an election hotline. That number, and I'll have it out here, is 919-372-4856. So, Chairman, if I were to see something that I feel like is just not right and I call that number, what do I expect? Will there be a live person on the other line, and will they talk me through it? And kind of tell me what your backroom operations are with that number.
Yeah, so we have a team of individuals who are taking these calls live. If they are on with other people, please make sure you leave a voicemail, leave your name, leave your number, and they will get back to you immediately. And what we'd encourage everybody to do is go ahead and document what you've seen. So if you have concerns about irregularities at the poll, or if a machine goes down, or if you don't believe that there's just something that seems off, it's always best to go ahead and call, report it. And again, as you had indicated, that number is 919-372-4856. and the team at the NCGOP will be able to assist and review those issues and talk to our election officials at those locations or within the county to be able to get things resolved.
Yeah, very good. Well, but we only have a few seconds left here before we close out the show. Is there anything you would like to remind our listening audience as we wind down this 2024 election?
Well, if you haven't had a chance to go vote and you need to know where and how, go to vote.nc.gop to be able to find your polling locations as well as who to vote for.
Great. Yeah, we will absolutely do that. Thank you so much, Chairman, for
Chairman
calling
Simmons,
in.
thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you so much for spending
Thank
time
you.
with us today.
Yeah, have a great
Take care.
weekend. Bye-bye.
What was his name?
Chairman Simmons?
Yeah, we just.
Well, I think you were talking at the same time, so I think you kind of got, you got the little, in there, I guess. But no, a lot of good information
It
there.
is.
But obviously, you would rather hear positive, feeling positive about, election prospects
Yeah.
and things like that for Donald Trump and Dan Bishop than negative. So again, I feel like the winds, we talked about it earlier. I feel like the winds are in Trump's favor in North Carolina, and hopefully that will carry through to some of our council and state races.
Yeah, and those council estates are important. The Department of Labor, definitely with Luke Farley. Also with the Department of Insurance, current Commissioner Mike Causey. Those folks really need your support, and hopefully you'll go out and vote for them because they have a lot of power after they get elected. And these are agencies that deal with you each and every day of your life. And I can only remember just to think back to COVID and the frustration that you had with some of these agencies, and having an elected Republican at the head of those, you will always have someone to be responsible to the individual, maybe not to the special interest groups that run around there. So
Yeah,
I do
100%.
appreciate that. And then also, don't forget, this weekend is Love Valley's
Yes.
Buckathon.
Yes.
I promised I'd get it in there. The Buckathon is this. Gates open at 5. The show starts at 7. So if you are looking to do something on a beautiful fall day and go look at the, Buckathon, you can go
Yes.
do that.
Oh, and,
After you
and
vote
and obviously you get to participate this
yeah.
weekend in what you were so excited about last week, your costume party.
I have had 2 offers to go to the Luke Combs show, and I'm like, I can't go because Earl has to die.
Yes,
I
you gotta.
I got to go.
You gotta go and be dressed
to the
up.
costume party.
As your Dixie chick, right?
But tomorrow morning we're doing a day of action. I was grateful for the the Federation of Republican Women. We're gonna go knock on doors. Shout out to Lisa Rowe for organizing that. We're gonna go. Hopefully, maybe I'll be at a door near you tomorrow as I come out and ask for your vote and in support in this upcoming election.
Well, it's awesome that you all are getting out and doing that, because I will have to say, knocking on doors is one of the most difficult things to do during an election cycle, because there are some people that are very welcoming. Thank you for coming by. There's some people who don't come to the door at all, and then there's people that come to the door. Why are you talking to me? And then decide to lay into you.
I know.
I saw a video the other day of a door cam, doorbell cam
a
or
ring
whatever like
camera,
that, of a woman who came into her neighbor's house because she had a Trump sign in her yard, and basically said, "Do you know that you are literally supporting the devil? He is literally the devil." It's just like, and
So crazy why people think that.
Kamala called him Hitler this week. So when that
You mean the
kinda
man who
hyperbole-
moved the embassy to Jerusalem and who's been supportive of folks that are, who are Jewish?
Oh,
and
yeah, well, that's
the whole
irrelevant.
time.
That's irrelevant, and the guy who did absolutely nothing even remotely resembling being Hitler the first time he was in office, now all of a sudden it's just a danger of democracy.
Oh gosh, smell of
Democracy is on the
desperation.
ballot, Vicky. That's what they
Smell.
keep saying. Well, I like
Right.
to think that smells of desperation, which
Yeah.
makes me feel good about it.
It
It's like,
does me
keep
too.
talking like that. Keep talking like that.
Especially
because I think
from-
most people look at that and say, I don't know if I buy that.
Especially for the people who thwarted the election process in order to get their hand-picked candidate to oust and coup their currently duly elected Democratic representative.
Yeah, I think that irony is probably lost on them.
Mhm.
The person running has not received a single vote
Yeah.
for president
But we're
outside
saving-
of the super delegates.
Yes.
And then who just sort of just brought the rest of them along at their convention, right?
Yeah, exactly. What if that?
Well, it's going to be a beautiful weekend.
Yes.
You're going to be out knocking doors. You're going to
Yes.
be dressing up in costumes.
Yes.
Hope everyone enjoys themselves. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you next week.
Have a great weekend.
Serving you better than ever before. 1059